Hi everyone, I got my Sentro Knitting Machine a few months ago and I made this top. Half of the top is made with the Sentro Knitting Machine and underneath is made with crochet. This is the yarn I'll be using and I used about 2.5 skeins. We're going to start by making few rows with scrap yarn. Before you start, make sure that your knitting machine is on panel mode, which is the P that I'm pointing at. To cast on, make sure that the white pin is on the right side of the yarn holder and then you crank until you get to the third pin. At the third pin, you place your yarn underneath and as you crank, take your yarn over, under, over the pin, under the pin, over, under. Continue cranking until you get to the 46th pin. When you get to the 46th pin, your yarn should be over the pin and then you place your yarn in the yarn holder. You can also apply some tension on your yarn, but I usually use my hand. We're going to crank a bit more until your yarn falls under the ridge, just like that. Now I'm going to apply some tension on my yarn. I will place it in the tension guide, or I will use my hand, and then we're going to crank backwards while keeping tension on the yarn. Keep cranking until you get to the other side. So when you get to the other side, make sure that your yarn falls underneath the ridge after your third pin. Make sure that your yarn falls underneath that ridge. And from now you can crank backwards. Don't forget to put some tension on your yarn while cranking backwards so that you don't have stitches falling off at the edge. At the end of this row, make sure that your yarn falls under the ridge after the 46th pin. Apply some tension on your yarn and then crank backwards. Again, like we did before, make sure that your yarn falls under the ridge after your third pin. Apply some tension and crank backwards. This is only scrap yarn and I made 10 rows. However, you can make as many rows as you want to. Before I add the new color, I'm going to cut off my yarn and I'll drop it in the middle. Make sure that you drop your yarn on the right side of the pin. Place your yarn in the yarn holder and when you crank, make sure that the yarn goes underneath the pin. I made 60 rows with the white yarn, excluding the 10 rows with scrap yarn. Now I'm going to cut off my yarn, place it in the middle, and then I'm going to add scrap yarn just like how we added the new color. I made 10 rows with the scrap yarn, but you can make as much as you want to. After 10 rows, I'm going to cut off my yarn, take it out the yarn holder and keep it in the middle, and then just crank till you get to the other side. And then you crank backwards, so your work just comes off. This is what the panel looks like after 60 rows. Don't forget that we have to make 2 of these for the front and for the back panel. Now take some scrap yarn and cast on from the 3rd pin. Go under, over, until you go over the 6th pin, and then place your yarn in the yarn holder. You're going to crank until you have just enough rows, or as you wish, before we add the new color that we're going to work with. So what we are making now is a small piece at the middle of the bow, like that small thing that gives the bow the little scrunch. After making few rows with the scrap yarn, take your yarn out of the yarn holder and then add the new color. For this piece, I'm going to make 14 rows. After 14 rows, add some scrap yarn to finish off. We want to make the bow now. Start casting on from the 3rd pin until the 46th pin. One more time, this is scrap yarn, so make as many rows as you wish. I am adding the new color and I'm going to make 22 rows. After 22 rows, I left a long tail to weave in at the end. Then I cut off my yarn, and then we're going to add the scrap yarn. I want to quickly show you guys how to weave your ends. Grab your yarn and attach where you left off with the white yarn. Take your hook and pick up the loop of the white yarn on the side of the scrap yarn. Then yarn over, pull through. Pick up the loop of the white yarn, yarn over, pull through only one loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Again, pick up the loop of the white yarn, yarn over and pull through only 1, yarn over, pull through 2. So just continue until you get to the other side. When you get to the other side after your last stitch, you chain one and cut off your yarn. To take out the scrap yarn, take the loose end of the yarn and pull. Repeat the same thing on the other side. When you're done with that, this is what it should look like. Next, we're going to make space for the neck hole. Make sure that both panels are facing the right side. It should be inside out. On the front and on the back panel, you should count 12 stitches and then place a stitch marker on the 12th stitch. After placing your stitch marker in the right place, you're going to grab some yarn and attach. And here we're going to make slip stitches until we get to the stitch marker. On the opposite side, we're going to count 12 stitches on the front and on the back panel also. To slip stitch on the other side, insert your hook in the 12th stitch of the front and the back panel, pull up a loop and make a knot. When you're done making your last slip stitch, you chain one and cut off your yarn. For the armhole, you should measure about 8.5 to 9 inches, and then the part below the stitch marker we're going to slip stitch. Below the stitch marker on both sides, I am going to count 19 stitches. I'm only counting to make sure everything is equal. After that, I'm going to slip stitch both sides until I get to the stitch marker. After your last slip stitch, you chain one and cut off your yarn. So after slip stitching, this is what it should look like. The sides, the shoulders, and the neck hole. Now we're going to attach the bow. This is the smaller rectangle that we made for the bow. You're going to get the tiny piece that we made. Make sure it is facing the right side. You're going to wrap the tiny piece around the bigger rectangle, and then we slip stitch. To attach the bow, align the bow with the front panel, and then turn your work inside out. Make sure everything is in place, then attach your yarn and slip stitch. After my last slip stitch, I chained one and cut off my yarn. After slip stitching, this is what it should look like. We're going to do the same thing with the slip stitches on the opposite side. Repeat the same steps we did previously. Turn your work inside out, make sure everything is aligned, attach your yarn, make a knot, and slip stitch. Now we're going to slip stitch the bottom, that is the bottom of the front panel and the bottom of the bow. Make sure your work is facing the right side and you begin to slip stitch. Now we're going to crochet the bottom. So get your yarn and attach your yarn. Then we're going to chain 3. After chain, place 2 double crochets into each stitch across this row. At the back, we're doing back loops only, but continue with 2 double crochets into each stitch. At this point, you're going to slip stitch, then chain 2. On the new row, make 2 double crochets again into each stitch. When you get to the end of the row, slip stitch, then chain 2. On this row, make 1 double crochet into each stitch. I made 11 rows in total. That is the first 2 rows with 2 double crochets in each stitch, and the remaining 9 rows with 1 double crochet in each stitch. At the end of your 11th row, slip stitch, then chain 1 and cut off your yarn. Grab your yarn again and find the corner to attach. Attach your yarn and chain 2, and we're going to make 2 double crochets into each stitch. As usual, at the end of the row, slip stitch, then chain 2. And on this row, we're going to make 2 double crochets again into each stitch. When you get to the end of the row, slip stitch, then chain 2. On this row, we are making 1 double crochet into each stitch. You're going to repeat the same thing from this row until the 18th row. To finish after your last row, slip stitch, chain 1 and cut off your yarn. Next thing to do is to weave in your ends and we are done. I eventually changed the color of the top. If you notice, the top and the bottom were like different shades of white, so I got some blue dye and changed the color. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Bye.